Alright guys, welcome back to the build. Today we're going to continue working on the hatch. So we've got a few parts that came in, and I think what I'll do is start out by telling you what I've got, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and then we're going to get going on it and get it done. So the first thing that we're going to start on is our lights. So I've already fabbed up a couple of blocks of wood here, glued them in place, routed out the hole for the lights. Now we need to get things wired up, and I do have some pieces that I already pre-cut and taped up, so we're gonna get things wired up. And then next is this area here. We're gonna have a T-handle latch, and that part came in, so I beefed up this section here, put another block on it, glued it, and fastened it from the bottom and the top to give it some thickness, and hopefully that's enough support. So let's take a look at the parts that we're going to use and how we're going to install those. So for my lights, I still had 2 extra puck lights over. I bought a 6-pack. I used 4 on the inside, and I have 2 left over. So these are what we're going to install on the galley hatch underneath, and then pre-made all of my wiring, cut the length left and right and center, run that back to where our connections are going to be, and then also our galley hatch. So we have this piece here which will mount on the inside, and then of course the handle goes through the hatch and operates left and right. And we have a couple of rods which are now under the hatch. I can't get those out, but one for left and one for right, and that'll help keep things closed. Okay, so those are the parts that we're going to start on today. We have lights that we're going to install, or at least get the wiring installed, and then we'll work on the hatch handle. So what we're going to do for that is just kind of pre-drill a pilot hole from the inside, and once everything's skinned and Filon, then we can finish and get that installed and figure out how we're going to keep this thing closed. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with the wiring. Those little necessities out of the way, we've got our wiring run, we've got connectors on everything, everything's plugged in. I checked the resistance and the wires are good, so we've got a good connection. And we also pre-drilled for our galley hatch T-handle. So I think what we need to do now is we're going to go ahead and unclamp this. We'll set it on our table. We'll get things sanded down nice and smooth, make sure that there's no glue and crap sticking up. Then we'll get our skin laid on there and see what it looks like, how much trimming we might need to do. Then we'll get it glued on, clamped in place. Almost done with that part. So let's do it. So this piece that I had left over
is almost a perfect fit. Got about a 1/4 inch overhang here, about a 1/16 to an 1/8. And we got a couple inches overhang here on the back side. And then same way with this side, we're real close. Good. So I think what I'm going to do is keep it clamped at this end. We're going to fold this end back, go ahead and get everything glued, pull it down, get things clamped, and once everything's clamped, then we'll actually run some staplers around the edge of this one, keep things in place. Alright, now with all the glue on, I put my clamps and then I went around and stapled the edges here. Once this sets up for a couple hours, we'll remove the long sticks here on the back and front edge, and then we'll go ahead and put some staples in that. And then we can take the router, get it trimmed up, make sure it's all nice and smooth, and then I think we can get the Filon on that. It's coming along. Alright, now we have the skin on. It's glued in place. It's fastened pretty tight. And we run some staples around the edges. I don't staple in the center. We let that roll on top of the inside rails. And just in case something's out of whack, we don't want it waving. So it's nice and solid now. So the next task is to take our router and we'll go around the outside edge and get that done, and then lightly sand everything, make sure it's where we need it to be, no staples sticking up and splinters and glue gobs and all that good stuff. Then we'll get it probably sprayed and get the Filon on. So let's get the router out and trim that bad boy up. Now that we got the hatch skinned and trimmed, now it's time for the Filon. So I'm going to pull out the piece I had left over when I did the top here. We're going to go ahead and set that over it, leave it overhang about 1 inch on 2 sides, then come by and mark it and trim that so we can get it to fit. Then I think the next shot you'll see is we're going to be spraying the adhesive on there. Let that set up, then we can get that Filon in place and call that hatch almost done. We've got some trim work that we need to put on it. We've got some varnish that we need to do. So once we get the Filon on, we'll bring it in, turn it upside down, and do a little bit of finish work before we can do the trim. Then we'll see what we got next.
Now we're going to get things trimmed up. Well, there we go. So our hatch build is complete. We have the skin on both sides, everything's framed up, and we've got the Filon installed on the back side here. Now what's left is to get this lightly sanded and start varnishing. We're going to varnish all the edges here and of course the inside of the lid. Then once all that's dry, then we can start doing some trim work. Not only on the hatch, but also on the trailer itself. So, that's where we're at. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. We've got everything all skinned up and Filon and the whole works. So, very kind of tedious operation here. And you saw that when I got ready to lay the Filon onto the hatch itself, I used some garbage bags and I clamped those down, just so when I put the Filon over, nothing sticks. Because let me tell you, once that sticks on there, there's no getting it off. But if you do, a little tip for you is a little bit of acetone will loosen up the glue, so you'll be able to peel it back and, you know, without ruining everything. So it's not a total failure if something sticks in the wrong place. You can always use acetone to get things loose and then start over again. So, like I said, that's going to do it for this video. Next video, I think we're going to start some trim work. And I do have the fan for the exhaust fan for the top of the trailer, so we might get that installed. And I also got some diamond plates, so we need to get that installed also before we actually start trimming the trailer. So we're getting real close. I want to be able to get the hatch here trimmed out and get the hinge on it, set it in place, and make sure that all my measurements are right, which I think they are. So at any rate, if you haven't already, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you can get some up and coming videos. You don't want to miss those. And don't forget about the plans. If you haven't checked it out, the link to the plans is up here, or over here, or there, somewhere now or at the end of the video. So for all those who have supported the channel, thank you very much. And what I want to do eventually is get everybody's name on the channel and just do a scroll through of all the people who supported the channel. And for that, I'm very grateful. So until next time, please do stay tuned.